morning. We are moving closer to the Illinois primary in a little more than 2 weeks, and over the last year, we spent a lot of time interviewing several candidates running for president before the Iowa caucuses. You can still find those conversations online at ourquadcities.com to help you make up your mind if you're voting in Illinois. One highly contested race, though, on the March 17th ballot is local. That is the primary battle to be the Democratic nominee for Rock Island County State's Attorney, featuring current State's Attorney Dora Villarreal, along with challengers Herb Schultz, Ronald Stratt, and Calvin Dane. We will focus on the first two this morning. Say hello to Dora Villarreal. She graduated from Alleman High School as a bachelor's degree from Southern Illinois University in Business Administration. She earned her law degree from Hamline University in Minnesota. She spent most of her career as an attorney with private law firms locally and as a public defender in Rock Island County. There's a good reason a lot of you do know her name, because she is the current Rock Island County State's Attorney, a job she was appointed to last July when former State's Attorney John McGehee became a circuit court judge. One of her challengers is Herb Schultz. Schultz is a Rock Island High School alum, got his bachelor's degree in economics at the University of Iowa, earned his law degree from Thomas Cooley Law School. Schultz started his legal career more than 32 years ago as an assistant state's attorney in the prosecutor's office and pushes his experience of trying more than 1,000 felony cases in court. Schultz currently runs his own law firm in Rock Island, specializing in criminal defense cases and family law. Whoever wins the Democratic primary will face Kathleen Bailey. She's a Republican running unopposed for state's attorney in the Republican primary. We will spend this week and next week introducing you to the Democratic Party candidates to help you make a decision in the primary. Two of them, again, join us this morning. They are the people I just mentioned, current Rock Island County State's Attorney Dora Villarreal, along with attorney and challenger Herb Schultz. Welcome both of you to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Let's start with, there are four, of course, Democrats vying for this nomination to be the Rock Island County State's Attorney. Mr. Schultz, I'm going to start with you. Why do you feel the need to challenge Dora Villarreal? What makes you more qualified?
Well, first of all, I'm running for the office. She was appointed. I'm here to be elected. So I'm not challenging her here. I'm here to make sure that I'm the most qualified and I think I can do the job well. So to say that I'm challenging her, no. This is an open seat and I'm running as a Democrat.
Why do you feel you're most qualified then?
Well, I have practiced law for over 32 years. I am a lifelong resident. I've tried more murder cases than anyone else. And I have been in juvenile court almost on a weekly basis, and I see the needs that have to be done. So I think I have the experience, but more importantly, I have the life experience. I've been on alternatives for the older adults, which we have done things in regards to protecting seniors and from financial exploitation. I have been on the Rock Island Council on addiction, where I learned about addictions and the need that we need to do in regards to our addicts. You know, it is easy to know what to do with the evil and the dangerous, because I've sat in the room with those people.
We'll get to some policies in a moment, some priorities. Mr. Schultz, one more follow-up with you before we get to Ms. Villarreal. You are the only Democrat in this race to be disciplined. Almost 11 years ago, you had your license suspended for a month for misconduct, specifically for lying to a client for 12 years in a workers' comp case. Certainly not a major suspension. We talk about a month as opposed to a year or a revocation or something like that, but it's a little more than a slap on the wrist. Why should voters overlook that?
Well, you know what? I own it. I made a mistake. And you know what? You get good judgment by what your mistakes are. So yes, I did it. And you know what? I will never do it again. You know, sometimes in life you get over your head. And as a young, inexperienced person, I didn't know how to get out of it. So I went in front of the board, I told them I did it, I took my suspension, I paid my client back, and I own it. You know what? The thing that you have to remember, when you make a mistake, you owe up to it. And you know what? I am not shying away from it. I did it. And I can tell you this. The shame that I put on me, the shame that I put on my family, I would never, ever do that again. So yes, I did do that, and I own it.
Appreciate your candor there. Ms. Villarreal, we'll go to you now. Why do you think you have so many challengers? What do you say to critics who say you've been the chosen one in case of political favoritism by the Democratic machine, not as much prosecutorial experience, let's say, as the other ones, and how are you more qualified than the other candidates?
Thank you. Well, I was appointed. However, myself and 6 other individuals applied for this. Mr. Schultz was not one of those. He decided to withdraw his application. But I did go through a pretty rigorous interview process. It was several members of the community who were actually on the interview board. I gave my financial records, my background records, any disciplinary records, which I do not have any. Any background information was free to this interview committee. I was then unanimously approved by the county board, which was bipartisan. So I don't feel that that constitutes being, democratic chosen.
What about, let's say, the criticism that maybe you don't have the same prosecutorial experience as the other candidates in the race?
I don't. I've been a prosecutor for 7 months. That would be since July 1st when I was appointed. However, I actually believe that that has been a huge benefit to me. My background is defense work, but I believe that that has helped me a lot because I got to see from the outside changes that I wanted to make, changes to improve.
Well, let me get to that because you're getting my next subject. We'll get to both of you to weigh in on this. What are your biggest priorities for the job? What do you see as the things the prosecutor's office needs most, and how do you do it? I guess give me 2 or 3. We can't go through a big litany.
You don't want all of them?
Well, save that for the TV commercials, right?
Right. Some of the biggest things is making sure we're working together as a team, and then focusing on some of our criminal justice reform that's sweeping the state and sweeping the nation, which is a focus on serious crime, and then more resources for low-level offenders, low-level offenses, so mental health, addiction, juvenile crime. Those are the things we're trying to get resources for, not sending those people to prison or even jail. Those are the biggest things we're working on right now.
Mr. Schultz, your biggest priorities for the job, what do you see the things the office needs most, and how do you get there? Like 2 maybe.
We have to work on, we have over-criminalized certain things. We have believed in mass incarceration. We need to end that. We also have to look at what I call over-felonization, meaning that we overcharge, then we say, okay, if you take a felony, we'll let you out. That's wrong, because you know what? We have a young person who decides that we either have the choice of sitting in jail for a longer period of time and maybe getting a misdemeanor or getting a felony. And you know what? Felonies follow these young people forever. They make sure that they don't have the right jobs, they don't get the right housing, and they have that following. We have choices in when we charge someone, and discretion is the most important thing in regards to a prosecutor. So my goal is to make sure that we treat people fairly, with dignity, that we make sure that people that have addictions get help, that people that have mental health get help, and that we don't go for trying to say how many convictions we can get.
You both seem to be just agreeing on those 2 issues primarily. So one area where you do disagree with each other involves the use of grand juries versus preliminary hearings in the early stages of prosecutions. Grand jury hearings are private, tend to give a big advantage for prosecutors seeking an indictment to charge someone with a crime. Preliminary hearings are those that are open to the public and evidence is presented to a judge who determines whether it's sufficient to hold a suspect over for trial. What is your stance and why do you prefer that option? Mr. Schultz, will go back to you.
Well, we've been having preliminary hearings in this county since I started practicing law. And the reason that is because it's open. The defendant is there, he can hear what's held against him. We have a defense attorney that will be able to ask questions in regards to the police. More importantly, we have a judge, and that judge is there who's trained in the law. Now, it's important that the judge hear that because later on he's looking at bond, he's looking at release, and you don't have that in a grand jury. In a grand jury, it's secret. It's secret. The prosecutor is the one that puts in the evidence. There's not any cross-examination. More importantly, they don't have to put in the evidence that they don't want to put in. You know, I talked to a police officer, a retired police officer, who goes, yeah, we only used to use the grand jury when we knew we couldn't get past a judge. So I think it's unfair and it's not open. You know what? We have enough secrets in Rock Island County. We need to be more open, and I believe that that's why I'm against grand juries.
I need to get Ms. Villarreal in here on this.
Thank you. One of the reasons that we went to grand juries is because of our huge backlog of cases. We have some defendants that are sitting in jail for 2, even 3 years waiting for their trial. Eliminating preliminary hearings has opened up court time, time for judges, time for defense attorneys to meet with their clients or have their trials and their hearings.
So it speeds up the process.
Yes, we're having more time available now to have, versus having these whole mornings every single week. And also for grand juries, just a little bit of a misconception, but we actually have court reporters in there. They're transcribing everything that is being said, and the defendants have a right to get that transcript. Motions to quash can be filed if any defendant or defense attorney believes that something inappropriate was done. but prosecutors are held accountable, and so are the witnesses, to anything that's being said or presented to the grand jury. Furthermore, I believe that the grand jury puts the power back to the people. The people, we have a grand jury pool, just like in a jury trial, that listens to the evidence to see if there's probable cause. Defendants keep their rights to still be innocent until proven guilty. This is just for probable cause. So I'm very proud of that process, and I'm proud that we're freeing up some time to get some of our defendants that we have to, as state's attorney, I have to protect their rights as well. They're important as any other citizen. I need to make sure they're not languishing in our jails waiting for their dates in trial.
We'll get to some of those topics a little bit later as well. And we have more ground to cover with Dora Villarreal and Herb Schultz in their quest to be the Rock Island County State's Attorney. Coming up, balancing force and the public trust, how to ensure the power of the badge doesn't get abused. For the record.